Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ParkTalk Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Ream. So throughout the year, the Naperville Park District's Trades and Parks Department work hard to maintain community parks and playgrounds. And while residents may see the work that they do outdoors during the warmer seasons, they may miss the work put in that is done during the winter. So joining me today to talk about winter park maintenance throughout the district are Superintendent of Trade Operations, Mike Piszynski, and Park Specialist, Trevor Stibbe. Mike and Trevor, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, and to our video watchers, may notice that this is a new setup, so you guys are our first guest on our new setup. How does it feel?
It feels like it's a pretty professional setup in mine.
This is.
I like it.
Yeah, this is a big difference than the last time I was on the ParkTalk podcast. Yeah.
So before we get into everything about winter park maintenance, why don't you guys just explain what your respective roles are with the park district?
So I'll go first. Like you mentioned, my title is Superintendent of Trades Operations. So what that actually means is for the Trades Division, I'm responsible for the overall planning and prioritization of the work plan, and I have sort of general oversight of the work plan for the Trades Division. And then that also involves a lot of capital project, planning, budgeting, and project management.
Okay, so you kind of like devise what's what.
Pretty much. So sort of our guiding document in the Trades Division is our preventative maintenance plan. And what that includes is a range of preventative maintenance activities and inspections of all of our core physical assets throughout the district. So some of the key components of that are we do monthly building inspections, monthly playground inspections. I would say those take the most amount of time and effort. Yeah. Then we'll do our seasonal startups on furnaces or air conditioners, whatever the season calls for. Our pump systems for our splash pads. We do a whole bunch of preseason work at the Centennial Beach. It's just so the preventative maintenance plan is a lot of routine inspections to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. There are no hazards. And as far as the preventative maintenance tasks on equipment, it's to make sure everything is still functioning correctly. And the main goal is to prevent, as the term indicates, to prevent anything from breaking. So we want to be out ahead of everything. We want to reduce the amount of corrective maintenance, or as much as we can, by keeping things sort of up to snuff all the time.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll touch on that more as we continue to talk about maintenance during the winter. Trevor, how about you? You've been on the podcast before, but just a refresher of what your role.
Yeah, so we have Trevor Stibbe. I'm what they call the Park Specialist 2 at the Central Division of the Naperville Park District. So I'm kind of a bit of a middle management type position. Quick background, I guess. There's like 3 parks divisions throughout Naperville that help do the maintenance of the parks outside, north, central, and south. Each one has a manager and 1 or 2 specialist 2s that kind of oversee and help the manager drive and delegate the day-to-day tasks for the park staff. So that's kind of my role at Central. Just we say that anything that we see growing is our responsibility. So that's kind of the stuff we take care of, is the real quick way to talk about it. But yeah.
Well, we've said in the 5 minutes that we've been recording park maintenance probably about like 20 times. So when I say park maintenance, or when anyone talks about park maintenance, what are some examples of the work that your teams do?
Over the winter specifically, or just in general?
In general, like throughout the year.
So the sort of the elevator pitch, or the elevator speech that I give to people, because we could go on and on about this, is that so the Trades Division kind of takes care of anything that does not grow.
Okay.
So there is a grounds maintenance component to our responsibilities, and then there's facilities. So anything within the facilities we're responsible for: electrical systems, plumbing systems, HVAC, anything you can think of as part of a facility. When you get out to the parks, it's all the hardscapes. So our trails, our parking lots. We do monthly playground inspections. We're also responsible for the safety surfacing that's at the playgrounds, any park district signage. so again, what I tell people is basically we take care of most anything that doesn't grow, which then, kicks it over to the Parks Department, which...
Yeah, like I said, we take care of everything that does grow. So the thing that probably we spend the most time on year in, year out is mowing. There's 140 parks district-wide, and pretty much all of them, at least at Central, we do mowing at all of them. So,
a lot of grass.
Yeah, a lot of grass. We've got, just at Central, we've got 2 mow crews that do the majority of our parks, and then even some of the parks that we don't have time to get to on a weekly basis, we try and mow each park at least once a week. We still have some contractor work that does mowing. So that's, like I said, the biggest thing we spend time on a annual or weekly basis. But we also take care of trees. We do plantings, removals, pruning. We do natural area maintenance and invasive removal. We take care of ponds. We kind of cross paths with trades on some of the trail areas as well. We've got some grass and mulch trails that we kind of maintain a little bit more than they do, since that's a little bit more of a natural landscape instead of a paved trail. Another big thing we do is at athletic fields, especially from I would say end of April through at least September. We're pretty busy with baseball, soccer, lacrosse, football, painting and mowing those fields, dragging and prepping and chalking baseball fields as well. So that's like Mike said, they take care of what doesn't grow. We take care of what does grow, and together cover everything.
The way I'm picturing it is trades is man-made and parks is nature-made.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Good way to put it for sure.
So kind of moving on to more of the seasonal prep, I want to kind of talk about before winter. So, tell me about the timeline for winter season prep. Is there a set deadline where both your departments are like, well, okay, we're nearing the end of fall, now let's switch over to winter? Does it strictly depend on weather?
No, I think if we relied on weather for that, we'd go nuts, and we'd probably find ourselves, behind the ball more than anything else. We go by the calendar.
Yeah.
Most of our park restrooms get winterized. We shut them down for the winter, and that takes a great deal of some of our staff's time in the fall. Once soccer season, soccer's the big one. Once soccer season wraps up, which is mostly by the end of October, we will start to winterize some of those park restrooms. So. Yeah, so we're draining down the pipes. We're filling the toilets with antifreeze, stuff like that, blowing out the drinking fountains, adjacent or attached to those restrooms. Then when you get further into the fall, maybe a couple weeks after that, then you start looking at irrigation systems. So throughout the district, we have one large air compressor like a tow behind air compressor that we share with the Parks Department and the Golf Department. So it's a coordination between all those different departments of who's taking the compressor when. Trades helps out the Central Parks Division and the North Parks Division in blowing out those irrigation systems. So we'll do that with them, and then again, like I mentioned, the sharing of the compressor, we'll send it to South, it'll go to Golf, it'll come back to us. So it'll kind of be jumping back and forth for who needs it when. But yeah, that prep is based on the calendar, and we do start winterizations in late October.
Yeah, I was kind of when kind of planning out this podcast, was thinking, well, sometimes we get snow in late October. Sometimes we don't even see that until February. So good to know that you're not depending on weather, because that seems like
and it
really
feels like it just feels like at least the last few years the cycle has been where we'll get a snowfall and a cold snap like late October, early November. Then it'll warm up again. Then it'll go back to cold. Then it'll warm up again. It'll just be bouncing up and down so much more than what I remember it as when I was younger. And maybe that's just maybe that's an illusion. Maybe not. I don't know. But it does seem like winter. Yes, we are in the winter season right now. But outside right now it's 45 degrees and rainy. Yeah. So it just seems to fluctuate a lot more. So if we just went strictly by weather, that would be a problem. Then you're caught off guard when the weather really turns.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so Trevor, does that cause any issues for you guys, especially with all the mowing that you have to do?
Right. I was going to say we probably rely on, or I guess pay attention to the weather a little bit more in terms of maintenance than the trade staff does, just because we do have mowing, and if we get snow earlier in the year, that just kind of limits the amount of time that we're able to mow. Typically, we have a hard stop date of like around Thanksgiving is when that week before is kind of when we do the last of our mowing or mulching up any leaves. At that point, you're not really cutting the grass. It's kind of just doing some cleanup work. But after that, we kind of put the mowers to bed and get them over to cold storage. And then we'll bring over winter equipment. Like we'll bring our snow blowers, our plows, our brooms over from our cold storage building over to our shop, so our fleet team can take a look at it, make sure it's ready to go for the winter once the snow does fall. Same with athletic fields to an extent. For the most part, like Mike said, I think that stuff pretty much dwindles down at the end of October. It slows down a lot even after like the end of September. But we have some synthetic fields that are open year round as long as there's no snow on them. So if we do have a warmer year, a lot of times like our athletic rentals and kind of just little things, like the maintenance isn't as extreme as it is in the middle of June or July when athletics are at their peak. But yeah, still, if there's the pickleball courts are in use year round, so we always have to make sure like the nets are at the right height and everything's good to go with those. Same with the synthetic fields, checking garbage around those facilities. So we probably rely on forecast a little bit more, just because of some of that stuff that the public like directly interacts with. But yeah, it's we still have, I would say, like set schedules for at this time of year is when we kind of move away from the summer season work and transition fully into the winter stuff too. So
from December to February, like that winter, ideally winter season, how much does the work change from the other seasons? Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So I would say one thing that we obviously, once you hit past November, I don't really think we have much at all in the way of athletic rentals. It's more kind of just free use, walk on for residents to use as they desire. So I would say the big thing that we kind of transition from in terms of athletics and mowing into winter is snow removal and sled hill and ice rink maintenance. So that's kind of that transition period where we're putting mowers away and getting out snow equipment for removal. At the same time, we're putting up sled hill fencing for our sled hills across the district for people to use. And Trades helps us with that. They put out signage for that as well. So again, we work pretty closely with them on that stuff. We flood our ice rinks, and that's a little bit weather dependent too. We try to, if you wait too long, then the pumps and the water you're using can freeze, and it becomes a more difficult process to flood and get that stuff ready to go. So we try and kind of keep an eye out a week or two in advance in the forecast of when that cold snap is going to come through, just so that we can get the water out in time and make sure that we get a good freeze before. A lot of times that first layer will freeze, and if we time it wrong, then that just gives people an opportunity to think it's frozen, go out, put cracks in it, then it's kind of hard to bounce back from. So I would say those are some of the big things we do. A lot of the stuff that we do in the winter too is indoor work, obviously. More so, I would say, than we do in the summer. In the summer, we're pretty much out every day. There's not a ton of indoor work happening unless it's really bad weather. But we'll do like trash can maintenance, paint can or picnic table maintenance. We'll kind of strip and refinish those and make sure that they look good. If there's any cracked boards, we replace those. Any rusted out trash cans, we replace those. There's always miscellaneous projects too. Usually we get a couple sets of bleachers every year that we build to replace for whichever ones are in rough shape at baseball fields. And then we do a lot of training and certificates. Our staff, most of our full-time staff have pesticide application licenses to take care of weeds and apply herbicide as necessary. And those are good for 3 years, that license. And then you have to retake a test and get recertified. So that's every year we have at least a couple full-time staff doing that. And we're actually looking at that later this year. Same with forklift certifications, stuff like that. That's kind of the time of year. A lot of those expire in January or February because that's when we get to them every year, because not a lot of time for forklift training, and May through August when we're outside every day. I can imagine. So, yeah. So that's a lot of the winter stuff that we do.
Yeah, you keep yourself busy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and even just simple stuff like catching up on cleaning, like around shop. We get some days in the summer to do that. You might have like a little slower day here or there, or like I said, if you get really inclement weather, it's really bad and nasty outside, you can clean up a bit. But winter's a good time to go through your small tools and make sure that if any are busted or in bad shape, you can either repair them or replace them. and take care of stuff like that. Just kind of a little bit, especially that first month, once you're out of the outdoor season, predominantly you get a little bit of catch up time to fix and take care of the stuff that you might have fallen a little bit behind on during the busy season. So
totally. Mike, is there anything similar with the trades department that you guys might change up during the winter?
Well, obviously, some of the outdoor work that might be dependent on ground conditions or certain temperatures, we cannot do. So exterior painting is out. We for the most part will not do engineered wood fiber replenishment on our playgrounds during the winter. That's sort of restricted to the summer months. But I mean, by and large, our operation sort of remains the same. We're still doing those monthly building inspections, even on the buildings that are winterized, because it's good to keep an eye on what's happening in there. Do you get a mouse infestation? Did a pipe freeze? Things like that. That's just something you want to keep your fingers on the pulse of that. And then we've got all of our major facilities. They're still open year round, and there's more activity in those facilities during the winter months, especially Fort Hill Activity Center.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So, and we do still do our monthly inspections on the playgrounds over the winter, because as we discussed before, we get mild stretches of weather all the time, and if the sun peaks out and it's 45 degrees, there's people on the playground. So we need to make sure we're doing our part to ensure that those are safe to use by our patrons.
Illinois 45 is like 65.
Shorts go on and people think it's summer because it's all relative. So
exactly.
We are responsible for some snow removal just at Fort Hill Activity Center, and that is dependent on the snow, but we're not waiting for it to snow. So
right.
most of our operation does remain the same over the winter. I do look for, and I do try to plan for, more indoor projects for the guys that might primarily work outdoors during the spring, summer, and fall. And to give you an example, right now that includes repainting some of our park restrooms. We just went through updating our ADA transition plans, so there is almost an endless list of small tasks associated with that, changing the heights of coat hangers, grab bars, changing out some hardware on the doors for the partitions in the restrooms. So winter's a great time to do those things when there's nobody using those buildings, and just have them ready for the spring.
Yeah, I think that's just a good reminder too, that our amenities, our facilities aren't just limited to our 140 parks and 70 plus playgrounds, but also all these indoor facilities like Fort Hill, the RCC, and places like that. Yeah,
district-wide, there is probably around 50 structures that we would consider a building, and that we put on our rotation for building inspections, because those, not only are those our major facilities like you just mentioned, but those are all of our park restrooms, the on-course restrooms at the golf courses, kind of anything with plumbing and electrical utilities we will consider a building, just because those things add two sort of big moving components to what can and will go wrong with those facilities. And then on top of that, we've got all different kinds of park structures too. So there's still plenty to keep us busy over the winter. Just because it gets cold outside, we're still operating the way we need to be.
Yeah, and when I think of different challenges that parks and trades might face during the winter, obviously the first one that comes to mind is weather. Snow, the temperature randomly being in the 40s like it is today, but then next week it's in like negatives. So what are some challenges that your departments face?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we probably face is I guess it's just like Mike had touched on, they have a little bit of snow removal that they do. I think one of the biggest challenges we face is probably just like weekend snow. It's not necessarily hard to get staff in, because most of our full-time staff understand that's kind of part of the responsibility for park staff during the winter, is taking care of that stuff. But that doesn't mean there's not fatigue from it. Like to start off this year, I think we got kind of it was maybe 3 weekends in a row, right? First Sunday after Thanksgiving, we got like a foot of snow. And then the next week we got a couple inches. Next weekend we got a couple inches, and it can kind of like, cause a little bit of burnout. So I think that's something we deal with, obviously weather dependent. But for the most part, I think as a park staff in general, and I speak, for Central specifically here, but I think we do a pretty good job of like rolling with the punches, and I think that's kind of the gig, especially in the winter in Illinois. It's like you said, you get the stretches of mild, and then you get the stretches of brutal cold. You get the heavy snow, you get the light snow. You never know what you're going to get until it's there. So just kind of adapting on the run is sort of the name of the game with us a little bit.
Well, and I will say the few weekends that you were mentioning where we got dumped on by snow out of nowhere, coming into work and just seeing our facilities afterwards. I mean, the Parks Department still did a great job clearing the snow.
Thanks,
like you said, just kind of rolling with the punches, just knowing that the season is it fluctuates a lot,
right? Especially
now in the early parts of winter.
For sure.
So Mike, you kind of mentioned some of the challenges of freezing pipes, kind of preparing.
Yeah, and those are those are the things we try to stay ahead of. So even in our facilities, our park restrooms that we keep closed over the winter, we still do have heat in those mechanical spaces because there is still potential for the incoming water service to freeze where it hits the meter and the RPZ and all that. So especially when we get like some deep cold snaps, we will do sort of wellness checks on those mechanical spaces just to make sure nothing has frozen, nothing has gone awry. We still deal with on a regular basis challenges with temperature controls, and sometimes that's just a matter of perspective with patrons. Mm-hmm. But recently, Knock Knolls Nature Center, we had one of our heating units go down that heats, I think, probably half the building. Mm-hmm. So the challenge there is keeping those spaces heated well enough so that you don't have to cancel preschool, or we have animals in there that rely on a certain temperature, so moving those animals out. I guess one of the challenges is having the ability to be able to respond to something like that and provide a solution to those problems in a timely manner. So I wouldn't say that we have general challenges, when winter weather hits. Like I said, we try to keep an eye on everything as best we can. But then we're ready to respond to any acute issues that might occur.
Yeah. I mean, winter is kind of the season in general. It's kind of a good, metaphor, so to speak, for what you guys do, because it fluctuates so much weather-wise. And I mean, stuff like the heat, like heaters going out, or things needing repairs. We can't always anticipate that. We could always do maintenance and try to prepare for that, but things just happen, and it is kind of just being able to adapt and quickly get in and repair those things that makes your role so important.
Yep, definitely.
Parks and outdoor amenities, they're not utilized as much during the winter. Why do we invest so much in winter maintenance? Does it make the transition throughout the warmer seasons easier? Is it just kind of taking care of what we own?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a parks perspective, part of it is a safety thing. So like the priority we have for snow removal is like anything adjacent to school walking routes or like high use areas, even in the winter. Like the DuPage River Bike Trail gets a lot of use no matter what season it is. No matter if we're in the middle of a cold snap or a warm snap or it's 100 degrees, there's always people out there. So a lot of the work is just kind of necessary to make sure that stuff is safe for patrons and they're not slipping on ice patches and or tripping over hazards they can't see because it's covered in snow. So that's kind of where our priorities start for that winter work. But like you said too, it does help with summer stuff as well. I know another big thing we do I haven't mentioned yet is like turf work in the fall leading into the winter. Yeah. Like we usually throw down turf blankets, especially like Knock Park is right around like our central maintenance facility, and it gets a ton of use, not just for baseball fields, which there's 7 of there that we predominantly take care of, but also the green spaces out there get used for football, soccer, lacrosse, all sorts of stuff, and they get beat up pretty good. So like once you get towards that fall winter transition period, the ability that we have to put down turf blankets and make sure that stuff stays covered and protected a little bit from the harsher elements, and also kind of insulated and moisturized from any snow we do get, helps that turf reestablish and be a lot healthier in the spring than it otherwise would be. So yeah, we sometimes there's obstacles to the winter, and like I said, you roll with the punches, but there's also things that we can plan for, like taking care of turf. There's steps we can take prior to that winter weather getting there to help us out like down the road. So safety and preventative stuff, just kind of across the board, there's always opportunities for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for us, it's the heaviest lifting as far as winter responsibilities go is the getting ready for winter. So it's that planned or preventative maintenance, for us, again, primarily associated with draining down those drinking fountains, getting the water out of the pipes in the restrooms, irrigation systems. You can't leave water in pipes over the winter where they're exposed to winter elements without any sort of heating. So it's asset protection. Sort of a thing. And then for a lot of our park restrooms, I mean, some of them maybe could remain open over the winter. We do, or Parks does place portalets out, like at Pioneer Park, which is a trailhead, or Nike Sports Complex, where we've got the pickleball courts. We'll have a portalet there. Sometimes it's an issue with having staff resources to maintain those restrooms. Parks does all of the day-to-day cleaning of all those park restrooms, and that's, I think, primarily done by a lot of seasonal staff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So we're, if we don't have the staff resources to adequately, clean those restrooms, we shut them down for the winter and we winterize them. So a lot of the heavy lifting is done getting ready for winter.
Yeah.
And as far as the specific types of activities that we have to do during winter, as I mentioned, snow removal and salting, that's completely dependent on snow. So we'll do that as it arises, and we have a rotation and a schedule for that. But during the winter, the actual investment for winter type maintenance is done before, and then as a result after winter, getting things back ready for the spring and all the activities that go with that.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, all the work that you're doing before the winter probably does make the transition to spring easier, because you don't you have those safeguards for any potential repairs or anything like that.
And that inevitably does happen. So we blow out the plumbing systems in the restrooms the best we can. Yep. But I mean, there are times from year to year where the guys will go out to activate, turn the water on at a restroom, and a pipe will have broken because there's just a section of pipe might be sitting lower than the others that just was holding water in it, and it broke. So we're well capable of fixing that, and we do, and that's something we check when we turn the water back on in the spring. But the better job we do at winterizing those amenities, the more fluid it will be when we go and activate them in the spring.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, giving a behind-the-scenes look at all of our operations throughout the community really gives our residents a better understanding of how we maintain our parks the best we can. So hopefully this winter, the winter weather isn't too much of a hassle for you guys in the parks and trades departments. But Mike and Trevor, thank you very much for joining me on the ParkTalk Podcast.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thanks for having us.
If you're looking for more content, you can find all our podcast episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or at napervilleparks.org/podcast. And full-length video episodes are available on the Naperville Park District YouTube page. As always, be sure to stay up to date on everything going on with the Naperville Park District by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or by visiting our website at napervilleparks.org.